how? My mind is seriously blown right now. Just the fact that you're using free, not so free, but welcome back, listeners. If you are new, welcome to the Digital Divide podcast. I am Justin Fry.
And I am Joshua Charletto.
So let's cut to the chase. So, Josh, uh, as we were just looking at these articles, and we totally just didn't look at them last minute and put them in our show notes, but I doubt you have, or most people have actually seen this, but there was a woman enjoying a nice beer at a baseball game just, I think, this week. And batter comes up, takes a nice swing, hits a foul ball. Lady's probably talking to her friend, enjoying the game, and lo and behold, the ball literally falls perfectly in her beer cup. It was, and there's a video, and you'll be able to see it in the show notes, but
Okay, I
perfectly.
think though the more important part of the story is what, and I don't know, what happens next?
What happens
What does
next?
she do?
I was, you ruined my question. I was going to ask you, what do you think she does? Does she A? Well, hold on. I'll give you a couple choices. Does she A, just take a selfie with it? B, does she chug the beer with the ball in it? Or C, does she get mad and walk away and get another beer? Like, what do you think she did?
I can tell you two things. One is what I hope she didn't do, and then two, my actual answers. Though I hope she didn't drink it, and I hope she just walked away mad. But I believe that she actually drank it is gonna be my guess.
Yeah, she totally drank it, and
Oh my God, no!
yeah. So not only did she drink it, she like when it happened, she was like, "Oh my god!" freaking out. Everybody was clapping. I mean, honestly, that's pretty cool that it happened. And then I was just waiting for that moment. Like, come on, you're gonna chug a beer. And I mean, she tried to chug it. You can tell she was having a little trouble. Maybe her college days are past her, and she could have just chugged the beer. But I'll give her credit. She drank the whole thing, and it ended up actually showing up, I think, on the official MLB Twitter page, like a picture of her holding the cup with the ball still in it. So you don't see it every day, and it's way better than seeing someone reach out and steal a home run ball or ruining a game because they caught something that somebody could have caught to turn the tide of the game. So uh, pretty nice to see something like that happen.
No, no, no.
What?
That's disgusting. Do you know where that ball has been?
Uh,
That's so gross.
Actually, I bet you it's not like the pitcher would have spit in his hands to get a better grip on the ball or make it.
No, that's never happened, ever. Plus, it's definitely not been on the ground in the dirt, and it's definitely not been in the dugout where they all walk and spit, and it's definitely not been in the back. I mean, that's just so gross. That is disgusting.
We're in someone's pocket. Don't forget sweaty pocket.
Okay, all right. Wow. Yeah, I can't. I just can't. That's
Well,
gross.
what about you?
Mine is actually way more lame. I pulled up uh, a page that made me laugh quite a bit. 37 photos of kids taking a quick snooze in odd places.
Oh God.
You had mentioned Huffington Post, so I pulled it up, and this was the first thing I saw, and I just started laughing as I was scrolling. So there's one of the kid asleep while on the toilet. And, these kinds of things are normally not believable until you have kids and you see some of this stuff happen.
Yeah.
So it just brings a smile to my face and a couple memories. So we'll put that in the show notes because it's just hilarious.
God. I feel like that's something a parent would do. Take pictures of that. I mean, you're a parent. I am unfortunately not, but soon will be. But you are. I mean, do you picture yourself doing this? Would you do this to your kids if you caught them like passing out on the toilet or, I don't know, falling asleep on the swing?
I absolutely would take pictures of it. The difference, though, that separates me from some parents of today is I would not then put it on Facebook.
Yeah, please don't.
And that's the thing is that will always be on Facebook or on a server somewhere, and then they're gonna grow up and they're gonna be some powerful lawyer, and then or some big doctor or something else important. And here's the skeleton in the closet. You fell asleep while you were on the potty when you were 6.
I doubt
I
they'll
have it right
say.
here.
Oh my! What are they gonna do? Their legal standing is diminishing because they now have someone has found a and leaked a video of them falling asleep on a toilet when they're like 6. I
No, not
doubt that's gonna
legal
do it.
standing. Reputation.
Same thing. Oh my god, these are hilarious.
They're pretty good.
But like totally realistic. I mean, falling asleep on outside the Magic Kingdom, those lines are so freaking long.
Oh, yeah.
Is
That's
that a
both a horrible and wonderful place. So
yes?
I could get into that and understand it.
Oh my god, her face is getting painted and she's passed out.
The
Oh,
thing is that kids will get very tired if you wear them out, and then if you keep pushing them, they're just gonna fall asleep in odd places.
uh, oh, this is awesome.
Anyway, so I know that this is an audio medium, so it kind of makes it ridiculous that that's the news story I chose, but we'll put it in the show notes. Definitely go check it out. Justin, where can they find the show notes if they want to go find this link?
Yeah, they can actually go to our website. The show notes will be displayed every time we post an episode. Additionally, if you are listening to us via a podcast app, whether it be Overcast or the Apple Podcast app, it should show up in the description of the actual episode. So if you don't see that, let us know. But I'm embedding it, so I'm hoping it shows up. I'm actually gonna do real time follow up and see if that's actually true. But yeah,
Great.
now you're gonna have to cut this out, this long pause that I'm actually looking. It's okay.
This show will never air. It's fine.
Yes, it will. Hold on. Info. Yep, it shows in there. Whew. God, I was a little worried.
Phew.
We're good,
I
yeah.
was on the edge of my seat.
Totally. So, Josh, what happened this week?
Well,
Or
a little thing happened called WWDC. What's WWDC, Justin?
that's a good question.
It's the Worldwide Developers Conference
I
from
was
Apple.
I was going there. It wasn't that I didn't know what it was. It's not like I took a day off to watch it or something. God.
Well, I can't see you. We're not in the same room. I don't know.
Yes, it's a developer conference, but obviously there's always press there and other people uh, basically there to take in all the new features. And this is specifically for software for those that don't pay attention. And at the same time, there was also a Computex conference going on, as well as some big news, big things happening. Sorry, with Microsoft. So lots of things happening during this week, but specifically WWDC was, or actually started on Monday, and it's a multi-day ordeal. So yeah, it's exciting stuff. New features came out, or at least were displayed uh, on the big screen, and lots of things for your iPhones with iOS. Lots of things. I mean, they spent a whole hour on it.
Yeah.
A long, very, very long hour. And then, of course, it's like they almost realize, hey, we have other operating systems we should probably talk about. So let's talk about them in 15 minutes. And it was grueling because, not to go on a rant, but essentially, all I care about is the Mac and what new features are coming and what they're doing to the Mac. And there, it was at the very end, and it had more than 15 minutes, which was nice. But yeah, it
All you
was.
care about is the Mac? What about your iPhone 10?
Well, I care about that too, but I mean, we all know they're going to pump a whole lot of new features and adjustments to the our mobile devices. That's where they're focusing quite a lot on. So
Yeah, well, Apple does this yearly, and
yes,
I mean, there's a lot of debate that goes into what they do and why. But
hmm
I liked this year because it wasn't that it was boring, but it wasn't also like a big show where they had to blow our socks off. It was just a lot of high maintenance things, not high maintenance, rather, maintenance things for us to get some new features that the developers can take advantage of and APIs. And really, there was a lot of talk of stability. So
yeah,
it was actually a really great conference from that aspect. But I really don't want to talk about what the content was per se. I feel like you can get that really, you can fall into
Oh
podcasts
yeah,
and trip over them. People talking about all the different things that Apple talked about at WWDC.
in detail. Like,
Yes, they go through, well, at varying levels of detail. Like some are
correct.
like high level, some are like really low level in terms of detail. But I think that the interesting part for our show is they really highlighted a lot of features that actually relate back to last episode's discussion
Correct.
about attention and multitasking and some of those things.
Right. And to my surprise, it was far more detailed than I thought it was going to be, or more extravagant. I was expecting, when they had mentioned it, because I think some of this had come out, maybe leaked a little bit, that they were going to have some sort of adjustments to notifications and some sort of ability to track your time, or more track your time on your devices, as well as like parental controls. But uh, what really was surprising to us is in this conference, they they introduced three apps, and those three apps really honed in, like you just said on our conversation last week: screen time, notification adjustments, and then basically a do not disturb setting slash application, I guess is the best way to explain it. So
Yeah.
yeah, and
So,
sorry, go ahead.
oh no, go
No, this is how it works. You go. You.
So I wanted to start it off in a specific direction, and that is the fact that let's start it at more high level.
Mhm.
Um, Apple announced quite a few, as you just mentioned, features for iOS specifically that
Correct.
are related to notifications, do not disturb, amount of time that you get to use specific applications or the device itself for
Mhm.
limiting yourself or your kids.
Mhm.
And what's interesting to me about that is that Google just did the same thing at their, I don't even know what their conference is called. Is that I/O, Google I/O?
Yes.
And I there were a couple other companies who have been doing similar things
Oh
for
yeah.
their applications, not just their devices. So it's interesting. I think last time we talked about how a lot of people are feeling that they are having their attention stolen or they can't concentrate or they have to be doing multiple things at the same time.
Right.
And, I think anything like that where you're trying to figure out if there's something going on or something changing or something different, it's easy to just look around and see the reaction that maybe companies are taking on the products that they build.
Mhm.
And Apple's doing it as well as everybody else, where they're building features in for you to use their products less. What does that tell you?
It's a huge shift. I mean, if you look back, what, 5 years ago, I think most of the development and companies were focusing on getting you to use the devices more. Well, at least I don't ever think we ever were given the option to like limit ourselves from using a specific device or application. Uh,
Yeah, definitely not.
so to me, this is a huge step in really the right direction, because we started to notice the effects that our devices are having on us, our dependency on being on Twitter for multiple hours. I mean, I think it would be a huge eye-opening experience to get this when we get these updates, to truly really see how much we're using our phones and what applications we're spending our time on. So that's something we might want to talk about come fall when we get iOS. What is it? 10, 11 dot, or 12. Sorry. Oh my God. iOS 12. So that's something I'm really looking forward to. But yeah, why are companies doing this? Uh, do you think it's like a moral high ground they're trying to take? Are they trying to really not save themselves, but actually for the greater good, try and mold people to not always focus on these devices?
No, I don't. Well, I don't know. Of course, we don't know, but it seems like more people are asking for these types of
Right.
things, or more control over these types of things, or the ability to choose. And I think there is absolutely something to be said about the fact that we're always looking at these screens, and we're
Right.
always ingrained in, or steeped, I should say, in all these different things coming at us, and we're always thinking about what's going on Facebook, what's going on Twitter. Like, it's almost, not almost, it definitely is subconscious at
Yeah.
this point for a lot of people. And it's not that they are doing anything bad or want to be doing something bad, or if it's bad, I don't know, but it's that it's just not thought about. It's not even mindful of them. They're just doing it. And I've been there, of course. We've all been there. But what's interesting is that takes your time and attention away from the thing you're doing in the real world sometimes. And that's where it becomes dangerous, I would say, maybe. And I think these companies are building in these options because they maybe see the potential risks there. I don't know. I can't say it's a moral thing. I can't grasp onto the fact that a company would be adding features to their product to for somebody to use it less from a moral high ground. It
Yeah.
just seems strange.
Well, yeah, and maybe it not for me. I would actually argue that I hope that they would be doing this, but I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, a company's not going to make more money because they're taking the moral high ground, or at least I don't feel like that is always a strong case. It'll probably be more or less because they're getting these requests from the people buying their products, that if they add these new features, that people will continue to buy the products knowing that the company has created these avenues to stop you from using, or like say, hey, you've been using Twitter for more than 2 hours. You set a limit of 2 hours. It's time to put this thing down and go read a book or go experience life outside your phone. So I just hope. I guess I have more optimism for society sometimes, and I just hope that that's what they're going for. But you're probably right. It's probably just for to keep the user base happy.
Well, yeah, I think that yeah, I think it's moral high ground in the sense that it it gives them a lot of what's the word I'm looking for, like political capital with their customers. In other words, like their customers feel warm and fuzzy about the fact that Apple or Google or whomever it is cares so much about their well-being
Yeah,
that it's giving them a sense that the company isn't trying to really steal their attention or take their time away, or they care about where those resources go or how they're using their products. So I don't know. I mean, that can go a long way for a company, I would say, but I don't know. It's just really interesting. I think we're like so many other technological products right now, we're in this time of flux where not all of that has shaken out, or we don't know the effects, and we don't know what is and isn't important or good or bad, or what, like, there's no policy surrounding um, what should or shouldn't be allowed, or, not that there should be, it's just that in years to come, what is and isn't socially acceptable or legally acceptable will be changing and in flux. And we're right smack dab in the center of it, and these companies are starting to feel out where their customers want the products to be taking some of that over and working for them.
yeah,
And again, it's kind of in that weird space too, where our devices aren't yet fully um, automated or smart by themselves,
hmm
that they're trying to go that direction, especially with some of the new Siri features and new Google I/O features, where they are building smart thinking machines. But we're not there yet, and we're not even close. So it's just this going to be this slow haul while the phones and devices start building these features in, and um, we grapple with the effects over time.
So, I guess I have a question for you, and this might not really pertain to you because at the time, not to say you're old, but at the time you were growing up and you were getting access to, say, computers, or you were playing early video game consoles, at any point were your parents commenting about you should play less of them or spend less time on them? And were they doing anything to keep you from spending too much time on those devices?
That's a really good question. My parents, definitely, they were cognizant of it. It wasn't like you only get an hour a day,
Yeah.
but it also wasn't like, hey, I see you've been playing 12 hours. Go ahead and keep going another six.
Yeah.
Um, so, so, if it was a few hours or more, they might start asking questions or be like, maybe you should consider seeing the light of day at some point today. That would be a good idea. Um, so they weren't really pushy about it. And I give them a lot of credit for that because as a parent today, even now, I'm like, my kids are on their iPads and then or watching TV or playing a video game system, and I'm like, maybe we should take a break and do something else. And it's not that there's anything inherently bad in any of it necessarily. We still don't really even know the answer to those questions, but
Right.
there's, I can't explain it. There's something in the back of my brain that's telling me, like, staring at this thing for X amount of hours at a time can't be the greatest thing in the world, or isn't may not be hurting anything, but also let's take a break and do something else and change your thinking or where your mind's at or get more active or those kinds
Yeah.
of things just creep up into the back of my skull, and then I just say them. And I think that's where all parents are at. There's no hard and fast science really necessarily or
Yeah.
anything like that that's telling us that we have to be doing that, but there's just something back there that says, hold on a minute, can you just maybe put it down for a couple minutes or a while and take a break?
It's just like TVs when they were first introduced, and at that time nobody was really focusing on the effects of people, watching hours and hours of television on the five channels that were available. But uh,
Yeah, but like a lot of parents were like, it'll rot your brain.
exactly, yeah, no, and so like it just has evolved each time. There's always something introduced, some object, and there's that fear of, oh, it's going to do something to my child, or my child will become a couch potato essentially. And I mean, my parents did the same thing, but what I was trying to get at is, I think really it was, and I could be completely wrong, but my parents were more cognizant of it in the sense where they were really pushing for me to do things outside. Now, I would like to think that when I first started as a kid, when I first started, oh boy, when I was younger and say elementary school, it, I was still playing outside and uh, continue to do so throughout and forever, really. But I didn't like become so engrossed into video games. I played a lot of it, but I still shared the time outside. It was like as I got older, I started to spend more time, and my parents were uh, rightfully so trying to get me to do other things. And so I'm glad they did that. But what they started to do is, I mean, there were at the time applications were starting to be created and sold essentially to monitor your child's um, activities, but also like limit their activities on the computer. Or
Yeah.
and Josh, I don't know if you ever experienced these, but
No.
one of them I think was Net Nanny.
Yes. That was a big one.
Yeah, and so I think really that that was probably early 2000s, I believe. Yeah. So
Sounds right.
when that was introduced into our family, that my parents were monitoring our usage, and we'd have like tokens to use, and or something like that, where it would limit us to like 2 hours a day, and then it would basically lock the computer down. And I thought that that's how it, and as I grew up, I thought that's how it was going to go, like throughout the rest of my life, that there would this type of application would become pretty apparent. But honestly, I didn't see that really prevalent in a day to day our day to day life. I didn't see that. Everybody was pretty much, after a couple of years, right back into let's use these devices as much as possible. It's engrossed into our lives. School started, you know, making us take computer classes, typing classes. We were getting more PCs, new PCs and Macs introduced into our schools. Like it almost shifted back again to here are all these cool features and tools we can have now. And come 15 years later after that, now we're back to, or at least our companies are showing some interest, whether it's moral high ground or not, to give the user the ability to limit their devices or limit their access. So it's just weird. Like I don't know how to think of. I just don't know how to feel about it. Other than
Gosh, I'm so old. You're killing me. 2000. Oh my god.
yeah, and I'm thinking it was
Oh my
I
god.
was playing Sims. I think
Oh, okay. Stop talking.
Gateway 2000 was I think the first PC we got.
Gateway. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Gateway 2000 came through, and then there was a Dell. I don't remember the model, but yeah, we had the good old Net Nanny on there, and that really was the bane of my existence.
Well, it's interesting because I think from that time that you're describing,
Hmm.
which, you know, we're going to ignore that it really wasn't that long ago, but I feel very old, and move into the fact that I think parents have been grappling with that since,
Hmm.
and in different ways, especially now that devices are so personal and so readily accessible and carried with kids. You I haven't had to deal with this yet as a parent,
Yeah,
but parents are continue to have to deal with the fact that they want their kids to be safe and have communication with their kids, and yet they're handing over this super powerful computing device, and the kids can do whatever they want with it.
yeah.
And one of the features that Apple just announced at WWDC was the ability to monitor your kids' traffic and or
Hmm.
not traffic, I should say, but monitor their usage and application usage and actually get reports on
Yes.
it and lock it down. And
Graps.
you can lock it down by application now and lock it down as a whole device and set timers. I mean, that's incredibly powerful if it works even half the way they describe, and will go a long way to allow parents to kind of monitor and manage that, and
Definitely.
potentially give their children some of the ability to manage that themselves.
Hmm.
And yet, it's something that will continue to be a problem, especially as more and more functionality and ability comes into these devices. I mean, there's the potential to get super sci fi with them, where they're doing things for you, or the kids are talking with their device to tell it to go do stuff for them while they're at school, or I don't know. It's just always going to be a thing. And it's interesting that companies are thinking about it and
Hmm.
building features and software around it.
I know I'm going to definitely use this on myself. I think I use my phone less than other people close to me, and I'm happy about that because I enjoy as I got older, reading books. I always loved reading books, but I feel like now I have more freedom to do or read more, I guess. So like I will put that down, my phone down, and go read a book. Or I like to do handiwork, so I like to build things. I like to do things with my hands. So I don't have to have the device with me. And if I set a limit for say an hour a day on something, even at work, like it'll prevent me from moving forward after an hour, saying, "Hey, you've done an hour of Twitter, so time to put it down and do something else." To me, that's just encouraging, and I know I'll use it for myself. I uh, might turn it on for some people I know and see how that does.
Well, okay, so before I want to ask you this.
Yeah,
You're a young, strapping
thanks.
fellow
Hmm.
who enjoys many an application on his phone. What do you find it more useful that you can be granular with the applications, or do you find it more useful to just be able to limit the device as a whole? And what types of things are you looking to limit on your phone?
Oh, that's a good question. So I think overall it would be probably ultimately better just to do the device because then you can cut yourself off from really doing anything. The only problem I can see there is if, say, make an exception for messages that come through and phone calls that come through, just so obviously you can take those phone calls or even respond to your family group chat that you might have. So that would probably be the only problem with disabling the device that I would definitely see come up. But with looking at it from a more granular perspective, uh, I would definitely there are definitely apps that I think I use more than others, and I'll like to call them distractor apps because they're essentially things that have no purpose and all they do is distract me from what I'm doing, and notifications that appear distract me, but I enjoy reading some of the content that comes out of it, or there might be something I'm uh, waiting for to be posted that I'm curious about. So, like Instagram and Twitter are the worst for me, and I don't know why. I think it's I flip between because I go on Twitter and Twitter depresses me, so I go to Instagram, and then Instagram is all nice because people have these cool pictures that are always nice, and you get to really follow up on certain things. Then you go back to Twitter, so I feel like if I had limited that, um, I would be a better human being.
Well, so, and I guess this is then the divide, right? So what, let me find the question in my brain here.
Mm-hmm.
You, do you use your phone more for calling people and receiving calls, or do you use more chat and messaging and
Hmm.
Instagramming and Snapchatting and Facebooking?
Ugh, I don't Snapchat. That I'm sorry, people, but Snapchat is silly. That's
I
all.
don't think you're old enough to not use Snapchat. I thought you had to. I thought it was
I don't.
built into your
I don't.
age.
I don't have Snapchat on my phone.
Wow, I'm impressed because I have it on.
Yeah. Well, I cannot stand Snapchat. It's one of my least favorite things in the whole wide world, and I'm being serious.
It's pretty lame.
It's
It's dually lame and amazing.
if I see one more duck face filter or whatever it is, I'm going to lose it. So I actually did it. Sorry, Katie and Maddie, but I did it. I removed it because I didn't want to see what my sisters were posting and they're doing Snapchats of. Like I hate seeing my sisters grow up. It makes me feel more vulnerable because they're getting older. But essentially, I would say now it's more chatting back and forth. I call my family more. Uh, Probably are the only people I actually call are my family members, my immediate family members. It's like my mom, my dad, my sisters, and whatnot, and my wife, and so forth. But like typically, I'm really just talking through text. I don't think
It's
I
because text is the best.
well,
It's my favorite.
it's just easier. I enjoy phone calls. Like for me, it's easier to talk to somebody because I feel as if I can get things out quicker and to them and like a quick question instead of sending them a text, which is also quick too. But like, hearing verbal confirmation from somebody means more to me than a text because I can't tell how they respond or like their voice fluctuates when they say something. I can't tell if there's sarcasm in a text. I'm terrible at that. So like I like calling, but really I think everybody my age, to be quite honest with you, would rather text somebody or even like if they're calling off, they would just text their boss. That really annoys me, but that's a totally different topic. But
Yeah, well, and I'm opening a can of worms with that.
yes, thanks. I appreciate
I'm
it.
kind of in the exact same, yeah, sure. I'm in the same boat as you. I like phone calls because you can get the feel of the conversation,
Hmm.
which is also why in-person discussions are even better. But because then you can see and understand mannerisms and all the nonverbal communication.
Yeah,
All of that gets lost in text and chat and all that stuff.
all that jib jab.
Yeah, all that jib jab. But I think that the youngins,
Oh yeah.
I think that they prefer the chatting, the Snapchatting, the such and such, and it's interesting because before the new WWDC changes, the new iOS 12 changes,
Yeah.
you used to be able to set do not disturb and then only phone calls from favorited people. could come through, not their text messages, just their phone calls.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like there's going to be a lot more granularity about when you receive what types of notifications or messages, and I'm excited about that, but I'm not sure that I'm going to get any use out of it. And like many features in the new iOS this time around, it seems like I'm not their target audience,
Mm-hmm. Well,
which makes me feel really old and not with it, and not like I'm being catered to, which, of course it's all about me, so.
I would argue against that. I would say that they are targeting your generation, or at least your age group, and part of mine too as well, and less so the younger generation, because I don't think, for me, I feel like the younger generation is going to want all those notifications and want all that data coming to them because they're more data hungry than we are. To my understanding, that's what it
Yeah,
feels
but they're
like.
the ones with all the notifications on at
That's what I'm
all
saying.
times,
Yes. So
and
so they won't
they don't
use
care
this.
about. Yeah, but I think they'll care about maybe using it to triage. But things like Memoji
Mm,
and Animoji, like that's not something I'm ever gonna
no,
use.
never, ever. I don't see. I mean, it's a cool feature, I guess, if you're under the age of 14, but I physically will never use any of that. I used it once with my iPhone 10, and I didn't even use it. My wife did, to send a single message, and it hasn't been used since. So, just so you know, like no one's going to be using that. Anyways, I don't
Yeah.
want to talk about that, but I want to kind of like touch base what you just mentioned. The use of like the do not disturb and allowing certain people and getting granular. I, I not to get off topic in the sense of how it could benefit us. I could just see people using this to ignore their parents or a significant other or a person that they're not happy with. They would just essentially set them to be funneled into a different box. Like the messages and calls will just be completely ignored. I'd like to say do not disturb maybe should be rephrased as who do I want to ignore?
Well, yeah, I mean, and they're gonna let you get pretty granular with that stuff, and just to point out, there's some new features related to Do Not Disturb turning on at certain times
Yeah.
based on calendar events, or turning on when you enter a specific area marked by a geofence,
Yeah.
meaning like on the map or using your GPS, which I'm excited about that kind of stuff because maybe, you want to set one. I see, I don't have that many notifications, so it doesn't matter as much to me, but
Yeah.
maybe you want to set one when you get to work, it turns on, and then when you leave work, it turns off.
Yeah.
um, I don't know. There's a lot of use cases, and I'm glad that there's a lot more choice, because I think it's one of the things that, even though Google is adding more to theirs as well,
Mm,
that Google, or rather Android, has had more choices for that kind of thing, maybe to a fault, but sometimes just having more choice is better. And in this particular case, being able to choose how your notifications operate, while maybe it might take some time to set up initially, it might have a massive benefit on your ability to use your phone at the right time. I don't know
right.
what the right time is. I'm going to put right in quotes. Use your phone at the right time, and focus on the things that are more important to you, and choose when to give your attention to the things that
Yeah.
uh, are on your phone. So,
Oh yeah, I can definitely, I know I will be using this app and I can't wait, and I will definitely try and download the beta just so that I can hone it on a device that I don't use on the daily, basically as my daily driver. I'd like to see how that works so that when it comes to my phone, I can already have like a workflow in progress and essentially put exactly what I want to not have, when I want that to show up on my screen, when I don't want it. Um, I think when I'm going to sleep, I don't have this problem because one, my phone's already in Do Not Disturb and in the area I can't reach. And I also am blind, so I can't see without my glasses on. But I look forward to having that actual ability to, and I think it's part of the Do Not Disturb. I could be completely wrong, but it literally only when I pick up my phone at 3 o'clock in the morning, it just shows me the time, or maybe I can have it configured to show what the weather is currently at, rather than any notifications that came through between the hours of 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. And the only time that those will actually be visible is after a time period, or if I trigger a Siri to say I'm awake or I'm ready for the day. I look forward to trying to use that.
Yeah, I'm in a weird boat or use case, I should say, because I generally won't have any notifications on my screen anyway when I wake up. I
Yeah,
think you're kind of in the same boat there, but I think it's useful and I could see where people might really enjoy that or really get a lot of use out of that. So it's what we're specifically talking about is that not only did Apple add more notification changes and granularity, but when you turn Do Not Disturb on at night, I'm not exactly sure how it works 100%, but in theory, when you turn it on at night, while it's on and you look at your phone at night, maybe you wake up at 3 in the morning, you just want to check the time.
yeah,
There won't be like a pile of notifications. There won't be any notifications there
yeah.
unless you specifically say that during that time you can get those notifications
Right.
so that your brain doesn't start churning on the things that you see and start wondering and start, you know, getting into it and drawing your attention into something that maybe is taking away from you sleeping.
Oh yeah.
Um, and again, I've not really ever had this problem. Even when I had notifications on, it has never bothered me to see them. But I think that there are a lot of people that may benefit from that, and
Yeah.
it's interesting that they thought ahead about that because it's not something I would have thought of. So
Do you think Apple is taking the high ground then? To go back to that conversation, is Apple a better company than other companies, and is specifically doing this because they want a better humanity and the
well, they always say that they do.
yeah.
And I believe that a lot of people who work there believe that that's what they're trying to do.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, ultimately, they're a company, so they're trying to make money.
Of
But
course.
at the same time, I like their focus a lot better than some other companies. I feel that they aren't just adding features because, well, and this has always been kind of Apple's MO, and they hit and miss, but they aren't just adding features because then they get to, list it off on a keynote every year.
Yeah.
And that's where some companies miss the mark. Some companies say, and now we have this, and now we have that, and now we have this, where Apple adds maybe less so these later days after Steve Jobs died, but Apple has always told you the story of what it's going to do to help you. They've always had the feature, but then there's more to it than just being a feature. There's a benefit.
There's a
So here's the
story.
feature and here's the benefit. And this is why we think it's important and we really think that it's going to help our customers. Now, whether or not that's just pandering, who knows? But at least there's more to it than just, we have the best processor and we have the best this and we have this feature and that feature. Um, and that's, I think companies are coming around to doing things that way because they've seen the success of companies who tie it into more than just being specs. But it's something that I always used to criticize that Google did, where they'd get up during the I/O, and Microsoft did the same thing, and
Hmm.
they'd start listing off the processor size that they're installed on, and how many people are using what thing, and what it can do from a numbers aspect.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's good and probably interesting to developers, but it's not a driver. It's not people are interested in hearing the stories and that's what will drive them emotionally toward it. So I don't know. I don't have a clean answer for what you're saying because I could never really truly believe that any company is
Yeah.
just always going to be looking out for me. They're a company. But at the same time, Apple seems to want to better they always call it enrich lives.
Yeah.
So they always want to enrich the lives of their customers. And sometimes they actually hit the mark. And that's where I'm like, huh, maybe there's something to it.
So that's a perfect segue, I guess, for me, because the way I look at it, just within the last couple of years, and um, I think, and this, I truly think this is a really big generational thing for us here. But the focus on the health and fitness with Watch OS and all the other fitness trackers devices out there, or smartwatches that have fitness tracking ability. Um, I really think within the last couple of years, there have been several companies really trying to push this directive, and I personally think, and you see that with videos, we've seen it, I think, since the last WWDC, as well as the hardware release in the end of in the fall. But like the focus on how the iWatches or the watches have saved people's lives, helped them change them and better themselves. So my question to you, or not more like a question, but more of a statement. I think Apple is doing a better job of showing that focus, showing that hey, uh, we're a company that yes focuses on making money and selling products that people will buy, but ultimately we're making devices and products that will help better you. And I wonder if you would have plant this idea 15 years ago, if the technology was available, like how and if it would even catch on. Because I know my generation for 100% certain that they're more health and fitness driven than previous generations. And correct me if you feel differently, but I think it ties in with the idea of like better wellness and this do not disturb and notification or de-notification essentially in the screen time app. I think this is a perfect example of our generation influencing companies to make devices to essentially better ourselves.
I think you're right. I think that I think you're right on a couple of things there, which I hate to admit, so try not to gloat. But
Haha.
the fact that the younger generations are affecting companies to the point where they are building products geared towards them in regards to health and fitness.
Yeah.
I think that that's interesting that it is being driven that direction. Of course, it's a good thing, in my opinion, whether or not their aim is to enrich their customers' lives.
Right.
I think ultimately it will be a net gain because um, even if you have a small segment of people who now are exercising or being a little bit more active, you've already won.
Yeah.
So
It's a win-win, really.
yeah, the one thing I will say though is that I think that Apple's getting better at telling us the story of why the watch is useful and what things better at telling us the story of what the watch's capabilities are and why it matters.
Mm-hmm.
I would say early on and even up until last year, they did a really, really bad job of it. And it was one of the things that I personally could point to say that they used to do it better than they are doing now. Where when the watch first released and then the year after, they just kept telling us about how great it was
Right.
and all the things it did, but I never felt like it was compelling. I never felt like there was a story behind it. And I mean, it's such a
It's an
lame
Apple,
term
but it's
to
an
talk
Apple thing to
about
do,
the
though.
story. Yeah, but I mean, there was no emotional draw to it, and I feel like even now, for me personally, and I mean, I see Apple Watches everywhere nowadays, so
Oh, yeah.
that's, I guess, a good thing. But um, for me personally, it's not the must have. Like the phone was a must have, groundbreaking must have, but the watch is like, okay, yeah, I mean, that's neat, but it's not 250, 350, $450 neat,
Yeah.
and not something that I'm going to spend that much money to, let's see, I'm talking about myself. So it's interesting because it's out there and it took a while to catch on and it wasn't as compelling. And I still feel like even when you ask people who have one, they like it, but they also tell me, yeah, it's neat, but I mean, it's not 100% necessary.
Oh, God,
And
no.
as much usefulness as there is with the health and fitness aspect of it,
Mm-hmm.
and I think there is a lot of use, and that's really the main use case for it. Um, I still feel like it's not the groundbreaking product like the Apple iPhone was.
Right. I would like to say that, and I want to not go into this any farther, but the just for the sake of time and just there's so much behind this, but the
Yeah.
smartwatch is really they came out as a gimmick, and at the same time you had two devices. You had a smartwatch, and then you had a fitness tracker like Fitbit, Pebble, so forth. Garmin has several, and I think people start to realize that the smartwatches just aren't they're not providing the value uh, that the Fitbit or the fitness trackers were, and that's when you started to see the shift. And within the last 2 years, really specifically, that companies were like, okay, people are still buying these products, these smartwatches, but the problem is they're not buying them enough, and they're going for the cheaper option. Like the like Fitbit Blaze or anything like that, where they sort of get the same notifications through text notifications and so forth, but ultimately they're using it for fitness tracking, and there's far better features on those little Fitbit devices or fitness trackers than our smartwatches. Let's gear towards that instead, and that's why I think that just within the last year or two for Apple, the iWatch really has started to show a story or become a story, and they really in this WWDC the videos they hit were perfect and told a story, not necessarily on the watch because that was last year where they really hit hard. Sorry, not last year WWDC. Oh my god, it was at the hardware release in September,
Yeah.
where they really hit hard on the video of like how the Apple Watch saved their life or made them a better person or changed their life in general.
Right.
So, uh,
Well, I think that it's interesting because this product really highlights Apple's different way of thinking about their products, which other companies don't necessarily take on, and that is they have such a long view on their devices and building them
mhm.
because really how they've released it and how they talk about it and when they talk about it, it all it all lines right up with the fact that it's been this slow burn as they slowly build the product into what they really imagine it to be,
Mhm.
which is, people say the Dick Tracy watch or whatever, but do you even know who Dick Tracy is?
Yes, I know who Dick Tracy
Okay.
is.
I had to check. Um, so this product isn't finished and it hasn't been finished. And it's been this slow burn into the product that they want it to be. Because when you look at the Series 0 slash 1 slash 2, they had a lot of the features that they were building towards, but not like the Series 3 really now has all of the features that make it into an actual standalone usable device, although it's not standalone 100%. And they've got a long way to go, but this is the first time where we see, I feel like, a fully fleshed out product. And it's so interesting to me because the price hasn't changed any, and it's been, I feel like you mentioned the value. I don't feel the value was there early on, and now it's, in my opinion, starting to meet the value of that price point. But it's going to keep moving forward and adding more as they build this product further and further. They have such a long view on what the watch is going to be and the features it's going to have
Right.
that it started out with this weird whimper almost, and now it's building into a product that has more momentum. And at the same time, you mentioned they also pivoted some of the features toward those lower end devices that capitalized on the some of the better health features
Right.
early on, like the heartbeat
Yeah.
sensing, the what other things? I don't know, the better understanding of running and walking, and really Fitbit is unmatched right now in detecting when you start an exercise
Yeah. Yeah.
without you having to do anything. And Apple's building that into their Apple Watch now. Um, so it's interesting because it started out as kind of like a bare bones product, and now it's building into something better, and the cheaper devices capitalized before the watch really built into this
Oh yeah,
better product. So
definitely playing some catch up, but I hope to own one of these devices. Whether it's I have a Fitbit, but it's an older one, and I think actually it no longer works. But uh, I hope to get a Apple Watch, one of the series, maybe Series 3 soon, just because I want to have those new features with fitness. So I like the new features they're adding with fitness tracking, and I hope it they basically gets a little bit better. I don't want to pay that 300 plus premium, but I might end up just biting the bullet, and I'm sure I'll be happy with it. And it sounds so terrible that I'm saying I'm just gonna get it regardless if I'm happy about it, but uh, I definitely see it. It definitely plays more towards me, and I look at people who have the watch themselves and are maybe older, and they tell me, "Oh, it's just a hassle to charge it," or I don't like the idea that I have to raise my wrist to see the time or something so like that. To me, I really don't care. It doesn't bother me. So
yeah, some of those have been fixed. So
yeah, exactly.
hopefully,
But
I'd like to
anyways,
get one too. I mean, I had the older Fitbit as well, and I went through two of them just because they fell apart. But I loved it, and when the second one fell apart, I didn't replace it, and I've been kind of missing it since.
yeah,
I didn't think it mattered as much as it did to me, where now I'm not tracking anything, and somehow seeing that data actually mattered, where it actually was motivating, and I kind of gamed it a little bit. Um, so I don't know, there's something to it, and even though maybe it doesn't feel as compelling as I think it maybe, I don't know, maybe it is more compelling than I thought it was. So who knows?
who knows? Cool. Shall we end this in trying to end on a rant or recommendation corner?
I think it's time.
So this my I love this rant slash recommendation. And I wouldn't even consider this more like a recommendation, but a question to our listeners. I almost said viewers, which would be subjective. But anyways, uh, someone asked me like, "What does WWDC mean to you?" And or at conferences like this, like what does it mean to you? Is it just a conference to watch uh, some company you're a fanboy or fangirl uh, about and to get excited about these new features, or does it mean more to you than just what's actually like presented content wise? And to me, I don't know where I'm going to go with this because it's an interesting one, but like
Just
things
feel it out,
uh,
Justin. Just feel it out.
to me, things like this are just releases of uh, software and or demoing the coolest and the most new features that the company is providing with the next release or product or whatever it may be. To me, it's like this is a place for uh, common folk, people with uh, same similarities or common likes, dislikes, whatever you want to call it, to go meet up and see and talk to instead of over the phone or over chat. Like physically meet up with people, catch up, collaborate on maybe developing an application or collaborate and spend time with friends. I think these are perfect opportunities to do just that, and it just makes me feel better about the tech world because we're both in it and seeing something like this and seeing the videos that Apple made it about the migration of the developer and how we poke fun at them being nerdy and people coming in and being integrated into the group and the family. I don't know, something like that just makes me like smile because I don't know. I don't know how to explain it,
Yeah,
but
no, that's Apple at its best for me.
it's not just
That's
Apple. It's
when
like everybody else. Like the people, they still do that. At Google I/O, people are doing that, flocking to that. We're about to have E3 in a few days, and there's going to be a huge migration of people, video game enthusiasts, news, uh, journalists. They're going to be companies bringing some of their new toys and like all sorts of stuff. But people are all meeting up in one central location to just kind of hang out and talk about things that talk things that they like about their favorite. I don't know, game. I don't know. It's just
So
kind of
it's more of a
cool.
community thing for you.
Yeah, it's cool community.
Yeah.
So
For me, if I may hijack your, I don't know what to call it since it's neither a rant nor a
it's
recommendation.
a rant of mumble jumble, basically.
um, that's what I like about WWDC. I think that it's, for me, I have always followed the video game industry and E3 and all those conferences, which have a different purpose, by the way.
For
But
sure.
I've always followed that stuff more as like a, hey, what cool games coming out? Neat. But WWDC drives me toward being a developer, toward being somebody with ideas and things that Apple brings out might spark some kind of inspiration that I'm like, maybe I could build something around that. Or
Yeah.
and nothing else does that for me. Though I've never really sat down and watched a Google I/O. I just read about it,
Right.
or whatever Microsoft's garbage thing is. So I
Oh,
just, I it's always just been a driver for me to build my own things and maybe even become a developer someday, or learn some code. So I don't know. They do a good job with it. Whether or not it's garbage, they do a good job.
yeah. But no matter the gimmick, get that like what comes out of it, the stereotypes that people play to, and just calling things out. I think it's them poking fun at what they already understand is like the perceived notion of people going to WWDC and developers and people who like Apple. But I mean, it's so cool slash it's exciting to be proud of a company or a group of people uh, that share the same likes and dislikes. I don't know. It's really interesting. I love that community. The community is great. Um, as as weird as it sounds, I'm happy. I like to consider myself being a part of the Apple community, whether or not it's fully integrated into the Apple community as of the last 6 months. It doesn't matter. It's just really interesting and
Yeah,
makes
well, I would think that community is the reason why Apple has so many evangelists, I'll use that term,
yeah,
and so many haters, because they are so polarizing with that community. And that's kind of like a more recent thing in a lot of companies. And people feel people who feel left out of that community then choose to respond by disliking
yeah,
or thinking that the community is dumb. And it's also because people are so evangelizing of Apple that they have that even stronger response to disliking it. So um, I don't know. It's a neat community. I agree.
I'm gonna stop talking because I'm just rambling now. So haters are going to hate. That's all I want to say.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I know we're running really long, so I'll keep it short. And I'm going to continue to fight against you and conflict with you on the actual purpose of the rant section of our podcast.
Oh my god.
And I will use a rant. This time around, I'm going to rant about email, and specifically email fonts.
Oh god.
Please, please, if this is you, you know who you are. Do not change the color of your email font. It's not helping anybody. In fact, it's hurting people. It is physically hurting people, specifically me. And also, if you're going to write an email, please do not bold the entire email.
Or
That is also not appreciated and
caps lock.
ridiculous.
Oh
Yeah,
god.
well, and like it's funny because I'm thinking of a specific sender at work. Not that they work with us, but that they send an email to us. Um, they bold their entire body message and people think that they have caps lock on and nothing has been capitalized. I mean, typical things like the beginning of sentences, but
Yeah.
people are like, I can't believe they sent an all caps email. And I go, they didn't. Look at it really closely. And they go, oh, wow, it's just bolded. So people will think that you're yelling at them. Please stop bolding your emails. Don't use fancy fonts. Use something simple and built in. Don't use 18 point. Don't use. If people can't read it, they will enlarge the font themselves. Don't use different colors. Like, it makes it unreadable
It's such,
and is just so aggravating.
such a 90s thing to do.
It really is. It feels like,
It's like
now
old
that I
school
just have,
AIM.
yeah, now that I just came from my GeoCities website, I'm going to change the font of my emails because they're HTML now.
Oh God.
No. Yeah, it's there. Don't take advantage of it. It's just use standard font for goodness sake. And ret.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you guys all for listening to our wonderful fifth episode. If you liked this episode or any of our other episodes, give us a review on iTunes or anywhere you can listen to podcasts. So that can be Overcast, Pocket Cast, Something Cast. There's applications out there that you could listen to this podcast. Uh, Check us out on our website, www.digitaldividepodcast.com. We post our episodes there too. You can physically download them there. We also have a YouTube channel that is basically just the audio in a video format so that if you, for some reason, can't listen to it and can't access our website, you can find another place to listen to uh, our recordings. And I'll add
Some people really like that. Some people only listen to podcasts that way.
that's interesting. But hey, we have one, and we want to make sure we hit anywhere people can actually get a hold of us. So I'll add that link to our show notes, and it's actually linked as well on our website. You'll find a little YouTube icon next to the Twitter icon. If you like us that much, you could actually individually follow our Twitter accounts. Mine's at JustinFry121, and Josh, what's yours?
At J Charletto, that's spelled Ciarletto. And you can also email me at josh@charletto.com.
Oh, perfect. I totally forgot. Also, you can tweet at our show because I don't think I said this. You can tweet our show at Digital Divide PC, or even send us some feedback, whether it's good, bad, doesn't matter, at askdigitaldivide@gmail.com. Also, can be found on our website as well. But basically, until next time, take care, guys, and we'll send an episode up next week.
Bye.
Bye.